131873, that number to ring. Thank you to all those people getting in touch with their feedback on a whole range of issues that we've been discussing this morning. Now, look, I've had a lot to say on the serious issues with childcare and the protection of our children, because in recent months we've seen case after case, awful stories of alleged offending by people who work in this childcare space, and it highlighted all sorts of problems with the state-based working with children checks and with a lack of a national database for workers and offenders. Of course, it's a tough challenge because you can't stop someone from working in the sector unless they've committed a crime. But it seems many warning signs have been ignored for far too long. You just have to look at the Royal Commission we had into all of this back in 2017, 8 years ago. That report made all sorts of recommendations, including the establishment of a National Office for Child Safety in the Department of Prime Minister and Cabinet, as well as a national register. But we had 9 Attorneys General fail to implement a whole host of these recommendations, and our children are the ones paying the price. Now, I'm indebted to Chiang Lim, who's the CEO of the Australian Childcare Alliance New South Wales, because he's been quite vocal in what needs to change, and he's provided me with a whole range of information while I've been talking about this, because he's dealing with this on a daily basis. And he knows what needs to change, and he also knows what is happening within these childcare centres. I thought we'd catch up with him, given what's happening at the moment. He's on the line with me now from Parramatta. Chang, good morning to you.
Good morning, Mark. How are you?
Mate, I'm very well. And again, I want to say a big thank you for your advocacy in this space, because this is something you've been talking about for a long, long time. And we were exchanging emails yesterday because I thought, I've got to put the work into what I talk about on the radio, Chang. And I sat there for 3 or 4 hours yesterday reading the final report into institutional responses to child sexual abuse that emanated from that Royal Commission. So we're talking about a Royal Commission that lasted 5 years, heard from 1,200 witnesses, more than 8,000 private sessions with survivors, and that final report released back in 2017. And I found myself, Chang, reading it, thinking to myself, this is recommended. The recommendations in this report are what we're talking about now that haven't been acted on over the last 8 years. Is that sort of the frustration that you're filled with at the moment, knowing that these recommendations were made but nothing's been done about them?
It's a parallel frustration, and can I say I am also lucky to have a national team and also my New South Wales State Board of Directors who've been very vocal on this for decades now on this. So it actually predates the Royal Commission. The issue with regards to a lack of action about the National Register and national approach on child safety is one dimension, and we're looking forward to the release of the legislation tomorrow in Canberra. The details, we haven't seen it. We'd love to see it. We'd love to understand how it's going to work in practice. Particularly with all the issues that I've raised with you before.
Well, it clearly, and Susan Lee, the opposition leader, has made clear that she won't be standing in the way of this legislation, and I would be very surprised if any of the Attorneys General would stand in the way. And what Michelle Rowland needs to do is to walk into the room and say, this is what's happening, everyone jump on board. But if I'm to go back to the findings from that Royal Commission in 2017, recommendation 6.15, National Framework for Child Safety. The Australian Government should develop a new national framework for child safety in collaboration with state and territory governments. The framework should, and it lists A through E, a whole range of different things. It's there in black and white, Chang. So why do you think it wasn't acted on 7 years ago?
Well, in New South Wales, it was acted upon to an extent. National child safety standards were introduced in New South Wales. We were one of those jurisdictions that have mandatory reporting requirements, working with children check. The issue is it working? And also, is it just an island of data, of information that does not interact with all the other states and territories, as well as you know, predators do not just exist in Australia. We have a porous border, and we could be bringing people in and out any time. So we have a question mark over, is the current system in New South Wales, let alone a national system that does not work properly, if not at all, is it working for us?
Is there constitutional aspects to this that may be standing in the way of a national framework around our federation? Is that something that may need to be looked at? Because, I mean, that should sort of fall by the wayside when it comes to the importance of the safety of these innocent children.
Correct, and it is a consequence of our federation. Our forefathers thought education and security, we're talking about policing and stuff like that, are the responsibilities of states and territories, not necessarily the federal. We do have a federal Department of Education that does not have any schools that they're responsible for. We do also have an Australian Federal Police who do some work in this field. But the question is, are they interlinked with all of us, the rest of us, or are the information just kept in one bucket and not shared? That's the question.
Well, because we've seen so many failures of laws, haven't we, in various states now, and there's no records, it would seem. How do we prioritise that federal reporting network? And the other aspect to this is protecting those whistleblowers who come forward and suggest there may be something untoward happening with a colleague in a childcare centre.
Correct. And we may have been the first in the country to have asked for proper whistleblower protections. And thankfully in New South Wales, the Wheeler report, one of its recommendations was to accept that there has to be greater whistleblower protections in New South Wales at the very least. You will recall in Queensland, Australia's worst pedophile, and this woman, can I name her name? I mean, it's in the public domain. Yolanda Baruki.
Yep.
She got terminated. And then got charged. Thankfully, a Brisbane court exonerated her. But imagine if that was the case. Some can understand why people are not coming forward. There's not enough protection, not just also from those that are whistleblowers, but also the employers as well. The employers also have to have the commensurate legal protections against defamation and also industrial protections against gender discrimination or unfair dismissal or illegal changes to the employment, which the current Fair Work Act protects. So these things have to work together.
The thing that really angers me, and it's highlighted today, there's a story by Susan Giuliani in The Telegraph, which I'm sure you've read, Chang, that says convicted sex offenders are continuing to appeal, working with children check refusals at the state's peak civil tribunal despite promises from the Men's government of a one-strike policy. The Telegraph can reveal that almost 10 people, including one convicted sex offender, have challenged working with children check refusals at the Civil and Administrative Tribunal in the past week alone. So these people are still being given working with children checks. Yep.
It really frustrates you. Frustrates the hell out of you, doesn't it? It's one of those things I've been thinking about, whereby maybe on this issue and this issue alone, states and territory, and for that matter, federal governments also might like to consider, for the first time in our nation's history, mandatory minimum sentencing for a particular range of offences.
Yeah.
Now, you remember back in 2002, 2003, John Bogdan tried to introduce minimum sentencing, and he got booted out. He couldn't win government, and so governments and politicians since then have been pretty shy about introducing minimum sentencing. Now, I reckon this is a wonderful opportunity to try and test the waters and say, if you can't bring minimum sentencing on this, we're in real trouble.
Yeah. Oh, I couldn't agree more with you. Who would really stand in the way of a mandatory minimum sentence for a pedophile? I mean, they are the lowest of lows, the scumbags of the earth. I mean, you know, there's an old saying that I probably can't say it on the radio, lower than you know what. But I'll tell you what, anyone standing in the way of a mandatory minimum sentence, I mean, they'd need their head read as well, would they not?
Oh, yeah. And then you remember there was a recent case in Mildura. Hidden cameras were brought in, not by an early childhood educator. It was a cleaner, a contract cleaner. And this animal recorded tons of images. And then he got charged, went to court, and he's out on bail. He's out on bail on the basis that he cannot use the internet and cannot approach the witnesses. Wow, that's real strong messaging from the justice system of ours.
Well, Chiang, in my opinion, you can't rehabilitate pedophiles. You can't rehabilitate pedophiles, and the recidivism levels would indicate that they go on and commit even more crimes. They are the lowest of lows, and they belong in jail. They certainly don't belong in childcare centres, that's for sure.
Mark, if I may, we are anticipating new legislation that's going to be introduced in Canberra tomorrow, which is great. This is the first step. However, I think as a society, as governments, we like to think and look for silver bullets. There are no silver bullets on this one. We like to think in some quarters, I'm against it, man bans. That does not work. We like to think CCTVs. That in itself could help, but it's not the panacea. We understand that there is a media focus and a society focus on what is the one thing that can make the whole thing be fixed. It's a complex issue, and what we need is everyone to actually work together and fix the system as a whole, not parts of it. When you have in New South Wales overall ratings of services, 92.6% of services in New South Wales are rated meeting the national quality standards or higher. In Quality Area 2 particularly is 94.7%. Children's health and safety meeting, if not exceeding or excellent. Now, when the system says one thing and then we are experiencing another, the system is not working. Yeah. So we need to look at it as a whole, not just look for parts of it and not just look for the silver bullets that we're hoping to find.
Yeah, and it's the reason why I'm jumping on board and supporting Keep Them Safe, this campaign in the Telegraph, closing loopholes, catching predators, because they're pushing for this national working with children check register. We need a national approach. We learned the hard way during COVID what it's like when states and territories run their own race, and at the moment we've got the states and territories running their own race when it comes to child protection and child safety, and that's clearly fraught with danger because we've still got these grubs offending against children in childcare centres. Chiang, keep up the good work, mate, and we'll keep in touch, and you let me know what that legislation looks like tomorrow and whether or not you're for or against what's put forward. But like you say, there's no silver bullets. We've got to get it fixed, and we've got to get it fixed fast.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it.
Good on you, mate. Chiang Lim, CEO of the Australian Childcare Alliance, New South Wales. He's got a big team behind him, but they are doing some phenomenal work. They've got all the figures, they've got all the stats, and they've got all the facts. And clearly, there is a big, big problem. It's 28 to 11.